Namaste everyone. Thanks for joining, and actually thanks to Dr. Sripada Indrakanti for taking time out during her busy schedule. Right now she's in India and it's her morning, so thanks to her. Thanks a lot. Uh, I think many of you probably know her very well, but for those who probably don't know her, she is from Austin. She finished her high schooling out here. She was in McNeil High School. She's the daughter of Srimati Kantiji and Sri Venkatji Indrakanti. Uh, Most of you probably know them because of the Gita program. They were the ones who got the Gita program in Austin, and they have been teaching Gita memorization for hundreds of students in Austin. And I think that's where Sripada got her introduction to Sanskriti, spirituality, uh, and I I think at some point she decided, hey, I want to do uh, Ayurveda. She went to India. She completed her BAMS at STM College of Ayurveda. That's in Karnataka. She has been studying Ayurveda ever since last 5 to 6 years. Uh, she has read texts like Ashtanga Hridaya and Charaka Samhita. Uh, she has been teaching Sanskritam also in various organizations like Vyoma Linguistic Labs and few others. She has trained almost 4,000 plus students. She's a Carnatic music singer. She's a certified yoga instructor. So she's a multifaceted personality. And uh, apart from that, she has been doing a lot of research uh, on uh, on the Ayurveda itself. Recently at Indica, she presented a research on pedagogical tools in Ayurveda and was also invited as a speaker on the Ayurvedic side of healthy debate for a symposium on Vedic debates. She was invited by Government of India to present the USA at India's first inception meeting to engage G20 sessions for 800 plus NSS youth from 11 states in national integration camps across India. So yeah, I mean, we can go on and on, but I think I'll take a pause here. Uh, she definitely makes us proud. Um, she does have special affinity for people in Austin. That's where when I presented this idea of presentation, she immediately said yes. Um, she's the very young research personality in Ayurveda. She is a very well-read personality. So without spending much more time, I'll hand over to Sripada.
Namaste everyone. Namaste Darshanji. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was really sweet. We will begin the presentation, and then after around 15 to 20 minutes of my presentation, we will talk about some topics like unique to Ayurveda, and then we can go into question and answers. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
रागादिरोगान् सततानुषक्तान् अशेषकाय प्रसृतान् अशेषान् औत्सुक्यमोहारतितान् जघान यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै. So this is the Mangala Charana, or the starting shloka that we chant before beginning anything in Ayurveda. This essentially has everything related to Ayurveda, and the essence is encapsulated in this one shloka. So if you understand this really well, you basically know Ayurveda really well. What it means is Ragadi Rogan, like all the diseases which here they say that they begin with Raga, which is attachment, Kama, Krodha, and all of the other attachments that we have in life, like desire, anger, all of these exist only because of attachment. And these are all considered as rogas. So they are diseases in Ayurveda. And roga is nothing but vishayasakti, or what that means is it is the desire to associate with our sensory objects. So our indriyas or sensory organs have this capacity to engage in various works, and these are only possible when we have vishayasakti, or the interaction between the object and the organ of perception. So this creates an attachment, and that attachment is described as a disease. Satatanushaktan, which means that they are always existing. They're always existing in terms of time and in terms of place. They don't leave a single part of your body. Ashesha kaya prasritan. So these diseases don't have a chance to even miss a single part of our body, and they are carried on from so many lives. It says tena sahaja, which means that satatanu shaktan ashesha kaya prasutan asheshan, which means that these diseases are prevalent throughout our body and without leaving a single spot. And also, they exist in every single time. They existed in the past, they exist in the present, and they exist in the future too. And they've been carried on from so many lives in the form of vasanas. And this is the main concept of disease that we need to understand. This will really ground us into the philosophy of Ayurveda to begin our journey into further things regarding Ayurveda. And this all begins with Viparitasha. So essentially, rogas are beginning in the mind. The next line says, Autsukya Moha Aratidan Jaghana, which means that Autsukya is having desires up to the throat, which means that even when you're full of yourself, but you still have you don't have the capacity to take more, but you're still taking more, that is Akanta Purna Abhilasha. And moha is tamas. Moha is a state of inertness, a state of darkness, confusion, and ignorance. And arati is anavasthita chitta, which means restlessness and not having stability in life. And all of these things have begun because of having excessive desires. And these excessive desires further create diseases. And these diseases exist in all time zones, all times, and they are carried on from so many lives. They don't escape a single part of our body. And therefore, we need to pray to the only one who is able to remove all of these problems from our life, and that is Bhagavan, or Apurva Vaidya, which means the Vaidya who has never existed before, the perfect physician, the one who is capable of removing these because he is not like us and he is beyond human tendencies. And that is the supreme nature of reality. That is what we call here as Apurva Vaidya, is the perfect physician, and he is none other than Bhagavan. So with this deep prayer, we can start our session today. We will just go into an introduction of Ayurveda, and this is going to be such a brief introduction to the vastness that exists, but I'm sure that we can have several more sessions to follow up with this. So what exactly is Ayurveda? It says in Ashtanga Hridaya Sutra Sthana, I'm quoting the references of books that I refer. The first chapter, the third shloka, and there are commentaries for those books. So in that commentary, Himadri, the commentator, says, Ayusha Sambandhi Veda Ayurveda iti, Ayusha Palakam Vedam Upavedam Atharvanaha, which means that Ayurveda is a science that deals with everything related to life. Ayusha Sambandhi Veda. It encapsulates the knowledge of everything there is to life. It's not just a medical science, or what people say, it's not just like similar to yoga even. Yoga is a darshana, which means it shows us a perspective on how to live. And Ayurveda, it's the science itself. And it also says, Ayusha Palakam Vedam Upavedam Atharvanaha. It tells us the way we're supposed to lead life. And it is a sub-Veda of Atharvana Veda. Atharvana Veda is one of the 4 Vedas that exist, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharvana. The last one is Atharvana, and Ayurveda is a branch of that. What we'll try to cover in this session is, we'll try to get to know the branches and sources of Ayurvedic literature. and we'll specifically look at Brihat Trayi. So once we get the documented sources, we can understand a specific text, that is Charaka Samhita, and know the gross structural organization of that text. And we'll then look into the origin of Ayurveda with the help of these textual evidences. And once we understand the origin and where it's coming from, then we can look at the relevance of Ayurveda and its greater purpose. And even to establish the purpose of something, we need to read it and know it completely. We can't speak about something, the greatness of something, without knowing it. So we will study a concept of Ayurveda called Trisutra, which is actually the aphorism, threefold aphorism that has Ayurvedic science completely inside it. So this is just an introduction. We're not even going to go inside Ayurveda. We will just understand what exists and to get to know the vastness of it. So this is one of the textbooks, original textbooks of Ayurveda. If you can see my video, it looks kind of like this. It's thousands of pages long, and it has everything in Sanskrit. There are more than hundreds and thousands of textbooks like this written by different authors across the time. And we'll just look at a few texts today. So the Brihat Trayi, or the big three textbooks in Ayurveda, are Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, and Ashtanga Hridaya. So I mentioned the shlokas from Mangalacharana that was taken from Ashtanga Hridaya, and also the definition of Ayurveda that we spoke about, Ayusha Sambandhi Veda, that is also from the Ashtanga Hridaya, the third text here. And Laghu Trayi is the little three. So the little three textbooks are somewhat not read as much, not taken as much as the serious textbooks in Ayurveda. They have more modern ideas and they have more extensions. They're basically extensions of the first three textbooks. This includes Sharangadhara Samhita, Bhava Prakasha Nigantu, and Madhava Nidana. Sharangadhara Samhita has a lot about like Roga Nidana, the etiology of diseases. Bhava Prakasha has more about drugs, understanding various plants and animals, and the products that we can obtain from them and how to use them in treatment. Madhava Nidana has, again, disease management. Sharangadhara also contains various formulations. So there are also recent authors. There's so many authors, I couldn't list all of them. I just mentioned a few, like Kaviraj Gadanath Sen, Shri Yadavji Trikamji Acharya, and Bhaskar Govinda Khanekar. These are all the recent authors, and there are even more recent authors like P.V. Sharma and other people in the 20th century and 21st century. When we look at the Brihat Trayi, we need to understand that there is a Granthakara, the person who wrote the textbook, and the person who commentates on it, commentators, and then there are the names of the commentaries. There are also redactors called Pratisamskartas, and this is to understand how the text is created. So Charaka Samhita was written by Acharya Charaka, and it was actually inspired from Agnivesha Tantra, from Agnivesha Acharya. And the person who writes commentaries on it and gives detailed explanations on what each word in the text means. Like, for example, when Usami analyzed the first slide, this analysis is not given by the writer itself. It's given by the commentator, who then takes each word and analyzes it and gives us a really good understanding of what it actually is supposed to mean and the lens through which we're supposed to study it. That Chakrapani Datta is one of the commentators. There are so many commentators. The one that we take as authentic is Chakrapani Datta, and his commentary is called Ayurveda Deepika. Similarly, Sushruta Samhita also has commentators, and they have these kind of names, Bhanumati and Nibandha Sangraha. Acharya Vagbhata has written Ashtanga Hridaya, and he also has his own commentators. The Charaka Samhita is basically a general medicine point of view. Sushruta Samhita is more of a surgical background, and it's for people who follow the Dhanvantari Sampradaya, which means they follow the tradition of surgeons. And Ashtanga Hridaya is somewhat a modern textbook which incorporates both the principles of Charaka and Sushruta, more leaning towards Charaka. and gives us an easier way of understanding Ayurveda. So a lot of times when you're a beginner, you start with Ashtanga Hridaya because it kind of makes things simple and breaks it down for you. It doesn't talk too much about principles and the essence and philosophy of things. It just tells you directly to the point of what you're supposed to read. That makes it easier, and it's very like convenient because there are less shlokas in each chapter, and everything is in the form of padya instead of gadya. In Charaka and Sushruta, you will see shlokas like just with lines and lines, 15 lines, 20 lines, and in Ashtanga Hridaya, it's more concise. They're always in Anushtup Chandas, so it's easy for us to chant and learn them. When we look at Charaka Samhita, you need to understand that there are 12,000 shlokas in Charaka Samhita. 12,000. And I know like Bhagavad Gita has 700 shlokas, but we have 10,000, 12,000 in just one textbook. And Ashtanga has way more. The Sutra Sthana, which has all the basic principles, itself has 30 chapters, beginning with Dirghan Jivitya Adhyaya. And the Nidana Sthana, which talks about etiology of various diseases, has 8 chapters, and each chapter is named with the disease name. Sharirasthana talks about life and how the fetus develops, how from the time of conception, and how the philosophy of Sankhya Yoga is seen in Ayurveda in Sharirasthana. Vimanasthana talks about measurements, like how much of something is too much and what is dhatu vriddhi, what does it mean when tissues are in increased state, in decreased state, what are the tools through which we can understand Ayurveda. So pedagogy of Ayurveda and examination tools, all of that. Basically, Vimanasthana is the toolbox of Ayurveda. Indriyasthana, which has 12 chapters, is more about what are the signs you see, premonitory signs you see before someone dies, like the premonitory signs before death. And you can assess these Arishta Lakshana, they're called Arishta Lakshanas, that these are the signs you see before somebody is approaching death. So you can understand when to take up a treatment and when to tell the patient that it's time to stop and take that call that you can't do anything about it. And Chikitsa Sthana talks about what you can do. It has 30 chapters, and each chapter again talks about a different disease and the various types of treatments that are possible for that disease. Kalpasthana and Siddhisthana have 12 chapters each, and this talks about various formulations. Siddhisthana talks about Panchakarma specifically. So I know a lot of you might have heard the word Panchakarma. It has a really vast meaning to it, but we won't go into that today. Siddhi basically means accomplishment and getting control over treatment, and Panchakarma is really the heart of Ayurveda, so Ayurvedic treatment. So that's why they have made a separate sthana for Panchakarma. Let's look at the origin of Ayurveda. I'll chant this shloka and then we'll understand the story. दीर्घं जीवितमन्विच्छन् भरद्वाजमुपागमत् इन्द्रमुग्रतपा बुद्ध्वा शरण्यममरेश्वरम् ब्रह्मणा हि यथा प्रोक्तम् आयुर्वेदं प्रजापतिः जग्राह निखिलेनादावश्विनौ तु पुनस्ततः अश्विभ्यां भगवान् चक्रः प्रतिपेदेह केवलम् ऋषिप्रोक्तो भरद्वाजस्तस्मात् चक्रमुपागमत्. This talks about the origin of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda was basically needed because everyone wanted a dirghayu, dirghan jivitam anvichan. They really wanted, their desire for a long and healthy life, longevity in general, is the reason why Ayurveda came into place. And it started from Brahma, and then it went to Daksha Prajapati, and then Ashwini Kumaras, who are the physicians of the gods, and Indra, who is the king of all the gods. And then Bharadwaja, one of the sages, goes to Indra and takes this wisdom of Ayurveda and comes back to earth. So till here, it's more like fictional, but this is the story and it has a deeper meaning. Just like how I analyzed the first shloka, there are specific meanings for each of this. This represents different aspects of the human mind itself. I won't get into that, but this is way more powerful than it just looks. These characters represent specific aspects of the human mind. And you can see that Indra Mugra Tapa Buddhva Sharanyam Amareshwaram. It really means that Ayurveda was so necessary for humans and for all life in general. And therefore, among all the sages who were present at the Global Ayurvedic Health Conference back thousands of years ago, this happened in the Himalayas. It's said that it happened in Chitraratha, the forest of Chitraratha, near the Himalayas. So many sages had assembled there: Agnivesha, Bhela, Jatukarna, Atreya, Bharadwaja. So many sages, and among all of them, Bharadwaja was chosen that he is most accomplished. So he will be able to travel to Indra, get this knowledge, and bring it back to Earth so that it could be useful for everybody else. These are the objectives of Ayurveda, and we saw that Ayurveda was needed because these sages had so much compassion towards all living beings. Like Vigna Bhuta Yada Rogaha Pradurбhuta Charirinam. This is what they say when they say they wanted to get Ayurveda for this reason. Objectives of Ayurveda are dharmartha kama mokshanam arogyam moolam uttamam rogastasyapahartarah shreyaso jivitasya cha. To achieve anything in life, whether it's dharma, artha, kama, or moksha, the purusharthas, the things that we should achieve in life, it is only possible when you have health. Without health, none of these can be achieved. They say that dharma is it's written in the commentary that dharma is dharana dharmaha sacha atma samavetaha karya darshananameyaha. So we can infer dharma, whether we're practicing dharma, by the fruits of the actions that we get by doing that. And kama is described as kamyata iti kamo vanita parishvangadi. So enjoying desires and worldly pleasures is essentially kama. Arthaha is suvarnadihi. It means that getting material wealth, and in those days gold was seen as the most valuable and auspicious wealth you can acquire. And moksha samsara vimoksha. So liberation from the world is what it says for moksha. So these four things, elements, can be only achieved if there is health, and you can achieve a prosperous, you can be famous, you can be happy and successful only if you can achieve these things in life, and that would only be possible if you are healthy. So that's why we need to learn Ayurveda. And this is what Bharadwaja learns from Indra, actually. This is a statement that Indra tells Bharadwaja when Bharadwaja goes to Indraloka and asks him to teach Ayurveda. It says, Hetu lingaushadha jnanam svasthatura parayanam trisutram shashvatam punyam bubudheyam pitamaha. So in this one shloka, Indra conveys the essence of Ayurveda to Bharadwaja, and Bharadwaja then goes on expanding this sutra and tells every other sage, and everyone writes their own textbooks, and that's how it happened. So they contemplate on this one verse, and that has everything that Ayurveda has to offer. If you make it into a table, this is what they're trying to say: Hetu, Linga, and Aushadha. These three elements are for swastha and atura. The knowledge of these elements are for swastha and atura, which means that the cause of health, the cause of disease, and the characteristics of health, the characteristics of disease, and what is good for health and what is good in terms of what is the treatment for disease. So here Aushadha means pathya. It means what is wholesome. It doesn't necessarily mean medicine. It can be medicine for the ill, but for the healthy, it's considered as what items are wholesome to maintain health. So in each of these aspects, you can go on and study further, like what is the cause of health? How can you say that somebody is healthy? We can have a discussion from now. If anyone, you can feel free to talk, unmute yourself and talk. because it's coming to the end of this introduction and we can start having a more open conversation. Anyone wants to say what they think about the cause of health? What would be like, you're healthy because of what?
So, Sriprada,
Yeah.
so what we are saying is, so there is cause of health and there is cause of unhealth, right? Like, the, so instead of treating the illness, why not just find out how to be healthy? Is that what it is talking about?
It's not saying that. Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. The thing about Ayurveda is they give you suggestions. They never tell you do this, do that. It's not an instructive type of teaching. The way that they present the text is, here's what we know, and you decide based on your yukti, your reasoning, and your logic, what is best for you. So there are people who are going to make mistakes. They're going to take things which are not good for them, and for them we will be targeting at atura hetu. We look into what caused their illness. For people who are really health conscious and they want to improve their health, they want to maintain their health, we look at things like what is the cause of their health, and then we'll further analyze how they can maintain it. So we have both a preventive aspect and a management aspect to health, and we don't judge anybody for it. We know that some people want to maintain and some people keep making the mistakes and come back, and we're okay to treat both. That's what Ayurveda says. Yeah. I think Meghana wanted to say something. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, just like someone who's well disciplined, cares about like their well-being, is healthy.
Perfect. Yeah, that's correct. So you can take it like somebody who follows a good lifestyle and diet. It says in Ashtanga Hridaya, in the fourth chapter. The fourth chapter is called Roganutpadaniya Adhyaya. Roganutpadaniya means the chapter that talks about prevention or non-reoccurrence of a disease. So to make sure that a disease does not occur again, making sure your body is immune and resistant towards any pathogens, external or internal. That is what Roganutpadaniya means. And the last shloka is the 36th shloka, talks about Nityam Hitahara Vihara Sevi. So just like you mentioned, good diet, good lifestyle, that is in accordance to one's constitution or prakriti. And Samikshakari Vishayeshva Asaktaha. So the first line that I said, Nityam Hitahara Vihara Sevi. The person who takes good diet and has a good lifestyle, they will be preventing diseases that are caused due to endogenic causes. Endogenic factors are like internal factors within the body. They're caused due to imbalance in the doshas. So this is the first aspect of it. Then Samikshakari Visheshwa Asaktaha, which means that you are controlling your indriyas and your sensory organs so that you perceive things that are good for you and you avoid things which are not, and you take care that you perceive objects in the quantity and manner in which they're supposed to be perceived. So this is going to help you prevent things like external factors which cause diseases like viruses and pathogens. For example, you wash your hands after you touch something which could be unhygienic. So every time you take care with your indriyas, which means with your sensory organs, like your eyes, you don't look at the screen too much, you don't hear too much loud sounds, you make sure that there's optimum balance in how you take things into your system through the sensory organs, then you are preventing external factors which cause diseases. External factors could be viruses, bacteria, anything. And the third thing is Data samasatya paraha kshamavan aptopasevi cha bhavatya rogaha. The third factors which can cause diseases are idiopathic, is what we say. Idiopathic in medical terms, in Ayurveda, it's said to be karmaja vyadhi. Things which are not in our control and we don't know the cause. It's unknown, we can't explain it. Then it's considered as karmaja. And the only way to get rid of karmaja vyadhi is data, giving charity, and treating everyone equally, speaking the truth, and being forgiving in nature. And then, of course, serving aptas. Aptas essentially means the preceptors who are offering us knowledge and wisdom. So these people, if we worship them, it's not enough, but by following the principles laid to us by them, that would really help us be a better person and essentially avoid karmaja vyadhis. And this is what it means to be healthy. Like the cause of health, you can break it down into preventing endogenous factors for diseases, exogenous factors for diseases, and idiopathic. So all these three, when they're prevented, then you can say that a person is healthy. And health, it says, is not merely the absence of disease, but it is social, mental, physical well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Ayurveda also says the same thing. It says arogyam roga abhavat dhatu samyam. So that's what it says for the definition of Ayurveda, arogyam. What does health mean? Health is not merely the absence of disease, but it means keeping the bodily tissues in a state of equilibrium. And WHO says the same thing as well. We can see that it is from the Ayurvedic text, the same exact definition, but it goes a little further in saying that dhatu samyam, that is the essence and purpose of Ayurveda. So we can look at a lot of these factors in detail, but for now we'll move on. Athara hetu, you can think of causes of illness very easily. Many people, you can just say, doing the wrong things, not having a good lifestyle, not having a good diet. All of this could be the cause of disease. And of course, what is the cause of health? The opposite would be the cause of disease. So by understanding one of them, you would almost get to know the other side. And Ayurvedasya Prayojanam. There are so many purposes to Ayurveda. This is one of them. And it says swasthasya swasthya rakshanam aturasya vikara prashamanam. That means that you preserve the health of the healthy and you treat the disease of the ill. So today we looked at what is Ayurveda and what are the Brihat Trayi and the various texts in Ayurveda, how Ayurveda has originated, and the importance of health through understanding the Trisutra. And we'll talk about the utility of Ayurveda. This is just one of the Siddhantas that I pulled up. It's called Trividha Kukshiya Siddhanta. This is taken from the Ashtanga Hridaya. It says, Annena Kuksher Dvavamsha Panenaikam Prapuriyet Ashrayam Pavanadinam Chaturtham Avisheshet. There are so many principles and siddhantas. Once you understand basic principles like that are common to all sciences of Indian knowledge systems, like Padartha Vijnana, that is Guna, Karma, Dravya, such words which you would have heard already in colloquial languages, but still they have specific definitions and meanings. And you can use these to apply into key concepts of Ayurveda. So once you know the basic principles, then you can go on to siddhantas like these. And these siddhantas tell us health concepts in Ayurveda that are specific to Ayurveda. And using these siddhantas, you can develop Chikitsa Sutras. I'm saying you can because the science is very open. You can learn the basic principles. You can establish siddhantas. There are so many already established, but you can make your own if it is in accordance to the principles that you learned. And with these siddhantas or theories that you develop, you can further create Chikitsa Sutras or treatment lines of treatment. And these lines of treatment will again fall in place according to those principles and theories. So that's how everything is very systematic. And this is one of them. It says that Annena Kuksher Dvavamsha. So how should you eat food and how is it divided? Like it says that your kukshi or your abdomen, not physically, but in terms of how much you should eat, the quantitative aspect, it's divided into 3 parts. And the first part is solid food that should be composing 50%. And Pane Naikam Prapuriyat. So 1/4 of it should be water or liquids, not water specifically. And Ashrayam Pavanadinam, Chaturtham Avasheshayat. This means that the fourth part, or the 25% of your abdomen, whatever your capacity is to intake food, should be left without consuming anything, so that you have space for the doshas to move. The pavanadinam here means the doshas of the body, mind. Actually, this is a physiological aspect. This is not talking about a specific place. It's not quantitative in terms of physical, but it's quantitative in terms of the action it does. So all of these doshas have space, and this free space allows them to perform the action of digestion, metabolism in the body. That could be the samana vata, it could be the pachaka pitta, it could be the kledaka kapha. So many divisions are there for these doshas, and each one performs a specific action in a specific region. So that's one way in which we can utilize things that we learn in Ayurveda into our daily habits. I'd like to stop the presentation here, and you can ask me any questions. We have still 15 minutes. We can have a talk.
Please go ahead and ask questions if you have any.
Sriprada, you want to explain how does Ayurveda define as a healthy person or healthy, having all the balance? Does it what does Ayurveda say about being healthy?
So Ayurveda, the definition of Ayurveda is actually hita hitam sukham dukkham ayustasya hita hitam manancha tache yatroktam Ayurveda sauchyate. So even in this sutra itself, you can see that Ayurveda is very inclusive. It talks about people who have wholesome life, people who have an unwholesome life, which means that they're detrimental to society, and those who are beneficial to society, and those who are leading a happy life, which means they're contented in themselves, and those who are leading a harmful life to themselves, that is sukhayu and dukkhayu. So there are 4 types of lives that people can lead, and they can choose what kind of life they want, and based on that we will assess this manam, we will measure their lifespan and their quality of life, and we will give them a treatment specific to their habits, their lifestyle, that will suit and be in accordance with the type of life that they're living. So this is actually what the definition of Ayurveda. What we saw previously is just a small part of Ayurveda, which tells about where Ayurveda comes from and what it essentially does. This is the true definition, which has the 4 types of life. So what I wanted to say is the characteristics of health is very, it's a very long definition, and all of that, to learn that, you would need to have a lot of vocabulary already. So I tried to make the vocab in such a way now that it won't be too difficult. And I don't want to speak of anything from my side. I want to talk to you about the authentic information that I have gathered. So I can talk about it, like equilibrium of the doshas, the physiological elements of the body. That would be sama dosha. Sama agni, equilibrium in your metabolism, the way you digest food. Samadhatu, equilibrium in your bodily tissues. And then equilibrium in your stools, in the way you pass waste metabolized from the body. That could be sweda, mutra, mala, the urine, feces, and sweat. All of these, how your body is able to quickly or poorly eliminate wastes. And all of this functioning itself is health in terms of body. And then when you look at in terms of mind, there are furthermore samadosha, samagni, samadhatu, mala, kriya, and then prasanna atma indriya mana. So having a pleasant state of mind, having a pleasantness within the soul, and having a pleasantness in the way we interact with the external environment. All of this is also considered an aspect of mental health. And it takes into account social aspects, physical aspects, and psychological aspects. This is what health essentially has if you talk about its characteristics. I hope that answers.
I think Meghna had some question.
How do Ayurvedic doctors heal patients? Is it through like mantras and then?
Nice question. Okay. Yeah, there are so many different treatment modalities. We have Daiva Vyapashraya Chikitsa, Yukti Vyapashraya, and Sattva Vajaya Chikitsa. Daiva Vyapashraya includes mantra, aushadha, money, all of these spiritual aspects of health, like gemstones, using various mantras, and using spiritual therapies, fasting, praying to God, doing rituals. All of this is going to target and come under spiritual therapy in Ayurveda. Then we have Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa, which is a treatment based on reasoning and logic. In Yukti Vyapashraya, we have Punar Ahara Aushadha Dravyanam Yojana. How to use Ahara Aushadha in your daily life, how to use food and medicine to treat diseases. This also includes Panchakarma and various physical therapies that you do. It can also be divided into Bahya Upachara, Abhyantara Upachara, and Shastra Pranidhanat. That means that you have surgical ways of treating a disease, external therapies. In Ayurveda, we have external therapies like massage, dry powder massage, and then oil massage, and various treatments to the eyes, the ears, where you have netra tarpana and nasya, which is instilling drops and oil drops into your nose. And you have basti, which is external of nature, which means you pour oils, hot oils, into a specific region of the body where you want to target. And you have other treatments which are external in nature. Then you have internal treatments like Panchakarma, Vamana Virechana, Basti. All of this targets as removing doshas from the body. That is how you would classify the way that these treatments work in Yukti Vyapashraya. When we look at Sattva Vajaya Chikitsa, it is psychotherapy, and it is mainly for the mind and counseling the patient. So this order is very important. When you look at Daiva Vyapashrayam, first we do the spiritual therapy, looking at Jyotish, and this will help eliminate any external hindrances to the treatment itself. And then the core of the treatment is Yukti Vyapashraya, which most of modern medicine is doing, which targets on the physical aspect of giving medicine, giving pills, and maintaining the health through that way. And then once we're done with the treatment and we have reached the state of dhatu samya or equilibrium, we're then going to go into psychotherapy and make sure that the patient is counseled properly to never repeat the mistakes that have caused him to get this disease. Like he's counseled about what to take, what not to take, how he can prevent this disease from occurring again. This is called apunarbhava, which means that this disease will not reoccur if certain things are kept in mind and you follow a certain lifestyle. That counseling part is really important to prevent reoccurrence. So this is a small brief about what are the treatment modalities available.
I have a question.
Yes, please tell me.
Just thank you for the talk, because your knowledge is very deep. Just a very practical kind of question. Can you suggest a few everyday tips to implement more Ayurveda in our life? Like, maybe eating, not eating late in the night, and fasting. That kind of a few practical tips for us to take home.
Yeah. So in Ayurveda, we have a whole Chatushka. In the Charaka Samhita, we looked at there are 30 chapters in Sutrasthana, right? So each of those 30 chapters are again subgrouped into groups of 4. The first one is Bheshaj Chatushka, that has first 4 chapters, and then the next 4 chapters has Swastha Chatushka. Swastha Chatushka means preventive medicine and maintenance of health. So in this, we have 4 divisions, and that is Matrashitiya, Tasyashitiya, Indriyopakramaniya, and Navegandharaniya. And these 4 encapsulate like the things which you can use to maintain your health in terms of daily regimen in the first chapter of those 4. And then we have seasonal regimen. And we also have the things like not controlling your natural urges. For example, the urge to pee, the urge to poop, the urge to cough, the urge to sneeze. These kind of physical vegas or urges should not be controlled. And if they are controlled, we get a set number of diseases and you need to do treatment for those. So that is also a whole chapter. And the next chapter is about Indriyopakramaniya, how to control your indriyas and use them in appropriate union so that you can prevent diseases. Like using them in Samyak Yoga, when you're using any object, you are making sure that you're not using it too much, you're not using it too less, and you're not using it in the improper way. Like, for example, looking at the sun. Looking at the sun directly is detrimental to your eyes. So doing that too much can lead to further problems. So that goes for anything in life. Maintaining that balance and the golden mean, that is what Dhatu Samya is aimed at. This is a principle, and we can definitely do more detailed courses on specific aspects of dinacharya, daily regimens, and ritucharya, seasonal regimen. But the simple things are like Brahmi Muhurta Uttishthit, wake up 1.5 hours before sunrise, and pass your stools, because passing stools before sunrise is really important. These things can only make sense when you understand the doshic clock, the way the doshas function in our body, what time they are going to be active and predominant. Once you know that, then you know why we have to do certain rituals at certain times. If I just say quick tips like do this, do that, that's not going to be very scientific. I rather go into an individualized way of telling this would be good for this person's diet and that would be good for that person. So I won't go into that too much, but we can definitely have a further course on like complete understanding of daily regimens.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I understand this kind of is never the correct way. Yeah, understand.
Yeah.
Hi, Shriprada. I'm Nilima.
Namaste.
I have a quick question actually. Some people say that we need to do intermittent fasting, and some people say that we need not fast at all. Fasting is not required. So, according to our health conditions, which one is good? Should we fast? Should we not? Should we do a intermittent fasting or should we not do that?
Yeah. That's a good question. See, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's what every single influencer says. There's a lot of misinformation, but that is, I don't want to be another one of those. I'll just tell you the thing as it is. There are principles, then there are concepts. These concepts are based on those principles, and using this concept, we make a treatment line. So if you understand these concepts, like what you're asking is about Agni. How does the Agni function? If you understand when you are getting hunger and when you feel hungry, then you know when to eat. It's not a hard and fast rule that everyone has to do intermittent dieting or do certain fasts. It's more about understanding your body nature. There are types of Agni, there are types of metabolic fire within you. Some people have very Tikshna Agni, sharp and fast metabolism. Some people have a very Mandagni, which is very slow. Some people have an optimum Agni, which means that they're balanced and they get hungry when they're supposed to get hungry and they eat when they're supposed to. But some people have Visham Agni, which means that it's completely imbalanced. Some days they feel hungry at 8 a.m. Some days they feel hungry at 11 a.m. It's never consistent. So by understanding which Agni you have to form a diet plan according to that. It's more important when you eat and how you eat more than what you eat, because what you eat is not in our control most of the time. When we're outside or when whatever situation we're in, we don't always have complete control on what we can eat. We don't know where the sources of what we're getting are coming from, but we can use principles that tell us how to eat and when to eat and in what kind of mind state you're supposed to eat. These kind of things will help you develop a strong immunity towards whatever you eat. So if people say like cut the carbs, cut the this and that and all of that, but it's more important to respect your Agni and eat according to your Agni. Eat when you're hungry.
Was also towards the doing upavasa. What kind of upavasas? When should it be done? Nirjala upavasa. All such are there. So if you can elaborate more on, I think that's also right. Nilimagar question was towards that also.
Yes,
You can
yes,
answer.
sir.
In Ayurveda, we have Trayopastamba, 3 pillars of life, Ahara, Nidra, and Abrahmacharya. These 3 pillars are there to maintain our life. They're there for us. And if you respect each one, you will try to maintain the appetite of each one. So you can't say that I'm not sleepy, so I'm not going to sleep. That's not what we do, right? We say that I'm not sleepy, so I'm going to find out how I can make myself sleep, and so that I can get good sleep and I can function the next day. Similarly with food, we have to try to develop that appetite within us. So you can say, I'm not hungry, so I'm going to stop eating. That's not the way. I'm not hungry, so I'm going to use upvasa as a tool to build my hunger back to where it's supposed to be, and then I'm going to eat, and I'm going to eat well. So that is basically the purpose of upvasa, is to maintain your Agni. It's not to avoid eating, because avoiding eating is not exactly the way humans have been made. It's probably for yogis, but the Trayopastamba, the pillars of life, are very important. If you don't respect them, then they won't respect you, and you'll end up in problems. So upavasa is based on person's capacity, how much you can do. And the goal should always be on building your Agni afterwards, so that you'll be able to well assimilate food. And that is the purpose of it. Fasting once in 15 days is a ritual which Indians are used to doing from many generations. And that is a healthy ritual. And there are many other rituals like that, like not eating after sunset, because the time of the day and the doshic predominance should be evaluated. When it's hot outside, your pitta is supposed to be at the top notch. So if your pitta and your the sun levels are all balanced, then that's the best time to eat. So during midday, when the sun is out, that's the time you're supposed to eat. The Agni outside and the Agni inside are aligned. But if you're eating at midnight, when the moon is outside, which is responsible for mind, like functioning of the mind. But if you eat when the sun is not out, your digestion is naturally going to be low, and the assimilation will not happen properly.
Thank you, Shripata.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question regarding the yoga. So we do have yoga and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and all that. So it also talks about health and meditation, mind and body. So does Ayurveda as such directly has any kind of relation to that, or does it talk about yoga in any of its books, or it's a completely different aspect?
That's interesting. Most people have started to look at Patanjali Yoga Sutras as the only source of yoga. We can find yoga in Ayurveda, and I have written a research paper on that. It's called The Gita of Ayurveda. It has been published in Chinmaya. I will try to send that link out so you can read it. It talks about all, and I also have a YouTube channel and a YouTube video made on it. I think it's just 10 minutes long. I'll put the link in this chat box, and your specific question will be answered in that video.
You want to summarize that answer? That will be easy for him.
Yeah, so Ayurveda has the goal of attaining moksha. Yoge mokshe cha sarvasam vedananam anuttamam. It says, so that means that yoga and moksha are going to be the ones that can end all suffering. And we have to keep that in mind when we're keeping track of how we monitor diseases. If you have the sense of the goal in mind, then you know that it's going to be important to follow a certain regimen and principles that will help you attain moksha. because the cause of all suffering itself is Vedana, and this comes from Raga. And if you understand the spiritual aspect of it, you'll be better. You'll be better at coming to a conclusion as how to use yoga and moksha to purify the mind. And yoga is essentially eradication of sensations, eradication of all sensations, good and bad. So you're completely having an optimum neutral stance to whatever comes your way. You're not affected by anything. And moksha is absence of rajas and tamas. And when there's absence of this rajas and tamas, it stops the life and death cycle. And this is the ultimate liberation from disease and life and death also. So it looks at the really big picture of health as eradication of rajas and tamas, and eradication of the cycle of life and death, and ultimately away from disease and away from life and away from death. All of that is what yoga and moksha aims at. Ayurveda goes a little bit into that in Sharirasthana. But Ayurveda also talks about the practical things. So you can look at Ayurveda from this angle or in the real world way also.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I had just one last question. It's not exactly related to the treatment as such, but when we talk about Ayurveda, studying Ayurveda in colleges, right? Uh, Long back, what I was told that many of the colleges who teach Ayurveda, they don't really teach Sanskrit. So everything is in English. So do we have many colleges or many institutes that currently go back to Sanskritam and teach the traditional way of Ayurveda?
It's interesting that you asked this question, because we study Sanskrit as the first subject in our course. That is a national level. We have a syllabus for it. It's more than 100 pages long. So our BAMS curriculum has Sanskrit as the first subject, and NCISM, National Council for Indian System of Medicine, has now made Sanskrit a priority even more, because it's always been there, and now they're trying to bring it even more, like reading Subhashitas, reading Hitopadesha, Vaidyakiya Subhashita. We have to read a few aspects of Amarakosha and Ashtadhyayi, Panini's Ashtadhyayi. So all of these are basics, and every single person who has done the BMS course for sure knows how to read Sanskrit and knows basic Sanskrit. Without that, there's no way they can get a certificate. All our exams are written in Sanskrit. So it's not possible. I pulled up the sheet so you all can see. This is the national syllabus. The curriculum has 104 pages, and each one, this is Padartha Vijnana and this is Sanskrit. So these are all the textbooks we're supposed to refer to while reading. Hundreds of textbooks. This is Sanskritam. So we have Vyakarana. This is all the syllabus for Sanskrit.
So they teach, they teach in English, but then you have to learn Sanskritam as well.
Yeah, interesting. Not specifically English. They teach in Hindi, Kannada, English, mix, and then we study in Sanskrit. We read reference books in Hindi, English, commentaries in Sanskrit, and then we treat the patient in Kannada or whatever language. Language is really not an issue. It's just a mode, and the subject is what's important, and getting the proper information. Language is just a tool to acquire it. So it shouldn't be an obstacle. Rather, you can use it to learn new things. I mean, I always enjoyed the fact that they teach in different languages, and it helped me learn more languages and understand the emotion behind what they're trying to say. Because everything can be explained in English perfectly, and everyone doesn't know the Sanskrit enough to understand the shloka as it is when they come as a first year student. So when they do incorporate colloquial languages and everything, it helps. So I'll send this link too, so you can look at the things that are taught in BMS.
Sure, thank you.
I have sent the link to the YouTube video that has the Gita file. If we are fine, we can close it here. We can end it with a prayer.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. It was really lovely to connect back to the Austin community and have this session.
Yeah, and it was.
Shajam. Yeah, you can continue.
No, I'm just saying that this is just the starting. So I think there'll be a lot of other aspects of Ayurveda which people will be interested in. So,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for taking time out and explaining. Just to start with, for what Ayurveda means. And yeah, that's really helpful.
Thank you for the opportunity, Darshanji. I'll do the ending prayer. Bhishajam sadhuvrittanam bhadramagamashalinam abhyastakarmanam bhadram bhadram bhadrabhilashinam. Om.
Thank you, Sri Prada. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.